And so I think I will adjust my sound. Okay, yeah. So just checking, you guys. Let me know if you can hear me. For those of you who are saying I'm not audible. All right. So again, what am I doing? I'm checking to see if and it seems I'm having an issue on YouTube, but I'm not on TikTok. This is so interesting. Oh, good. Okay, yay, awesome. Okay, good. So, back to my market research recap. If you're a new baker and you're trying to do market research, why are you doing market research? Because you're trying to see if people will actually buy your cakes. And one of the ways you can do is go online, find 5 to 10 bakeries that are in your area, check what they're posting in. Like, I used to be so obsessive before when I was starting. I would check back, like I would see for the whole month, what have you posted? Under each post, if you're a very popular type of brand, I would check what people are commenting. Every week, I would see what are your top flavors. I would check, are you posting a lot of Black Forest? Are you posting a lot of chocolate fudge? What is it you're posting? So you're checking the flavors that are common. You're checking the comments people are leaving. Thanks for the feedback. You're also checking what are the top flavors people are ordering. If you have friends, family, and colleagues who order cakes periodically, you are asking them, what type of flavor do you like and why? Another thing I would actually ask people, I'd ask them, listen, when you order cake, what are you thinking first? Are you thinking design? Are you thinking price? Or are you thinking flavor? Some people will tell you they think price. Some people will tell you, hey, I start with a design. I'll go on Pinterest, I'll look for a design, and then I'm going to come to a baker and ask them. Some people will tell you, I like specific flavors. And so I'm going to come to you with flavor first, right? And so that's how you ask people questions so that you can see, should I really sell Biscoff? Yes, I see Biscoff being posted, but a lot of people maybe they're not interested in it. Because I remember a time where I had two people taste my Biscoff recipe. This was last year. And they were like, this is so sweet. Like it ended up being not what they thought it would be. So I thought it was so interesting that people love seeing Biscoff. They love the way it looks like, but a lot of people think it's very sweet. So just a point of contention. Another thing I've seen is salted caramel. That's another, and especially if you are in Nairobi, there's a specific coffee shop that sells it. And people, it'll be so hyped up. When people go buy it, they'll be like, listen, this is really sweet. I don't like it. And a lot of people will tell me I don't order it again. And so make sure people are actually liking the flavors they're talking about. Another thing is if you already now for bakers who are already baking, your home baker, maybe you've been in it for like 6 months to 1 year. What you can do is ask yourself, is there something people are asking for more than another one? One of the things that happens is as you bake, like let's say for a period of time, I will notice like there's a period of time where a lot of people would ask me for something like, what is this called? I think it was called Blue Velvet. It is called Blue Velvet. And so Red Velvet was a big thing. And then after some time, people started asking for Blue Velvet. And it was like, I think like it was hyped up by people. But after some time, people stopped asking for Blue Velvet. Time went by and then people started asking for Funfetti. Do you sell Funfetti? And so what you want to do is pay attention to what people are asking you or what people are requesting. Even if it's not in your menu, it can tell you like a trending flavor. And this can tell you, hey, this is a flavor I can start with that is going to make me money, right? So that was sort of like a little bit of why you should do market research and some of the things you should do. Now, tactically, like what you can do physically, right? Some of the physical things you can do is this. If you are home baker, now this is for anybody who's either starting or has been baking. One of the things you can do is leverage pop-up events. So a pop-up event is something that happens a specific time, whether it is 1 day or 5 days. It's not something that happens continuously. It's not a shop that's here continuously. It's something that's happening every once in a while. So there's pop-up events that are unique to one time, and then there's pop-up events that are happening every week or every month. So go to those events, and this is where you can introduce to people that you do cakes and make sure these are events that are places where potential cake people are going to be there, right? So you want to test, is this business of mine going to work? Or is this type of product going to work? Have people taste it to see, hey, is this good? So an example of pop-up events you can go to test out your cake products or a new flavor is school family days. So in some areas, you will find that schools will have specific events where they'll have vendors come and they can sell something. So if you have either if you have a child or you have a sibling who's going to school and they have this type of event, you can do that. I know I was mentoring a baker like 6 years ago who her daughter was going to a high school, and the high school allowed her to do that kind of thing. I also remember a different lady who had a girl in a college, and the college would have once a year like an annual event, and she would go to that type of event. So you can choose to do that. The second thing you can do is residential fund days or estate fund days. So if you are in, like, for example, like if you're in Kenya, in some of these gated communities, or you're near communities that are like specific, they will tend to have like some sort of events. Thanks for the love bubbles, Sanam. Just keep them coming. So they'll have these sort of family events, and they'll look for vendors. Like we have a connection or a meetup or something or a fun day, and they'll have people selling stuff or giving away stuff. And so if you live in that estate, or you're near that estate, or near that residence, or near that community, you can come with your items and be like, hey, I'm starting a cake business. This is what I sell. Here are my flavors. Or I'm bringing out a new product. I want you guys to taste and let me know what you think. So I think that family, school days, school events, and estate or resident fund days are a great idea. Another one is church events. Now, this has never worked for me, but I remember a specific instructor that I had hired some time back, who actually two of them they were very intertwined in like church activities, right? They were really church people. And so their church every Sunday would allow people to have like tables where you sell something. And so they would go to talk to these people who what do you say, the ones who plan the events for church, and they would have the pastries. So one of my instructors does wedding cakes, but she also does pastries like samosas, and and I think she still sells to this day. That gave her a jump in her sales when she started doing that. And also this made people learn that she's doing wedding cakes. Another one was, I think she was doing block cakes or slices. And so every Sunday she would do the slices and sell them. That's also how people got to know about her business. And then later on, she actually started doing donuts, I remember. And so people started learning about her donuts. And so, church events, if you're the type of person who is in church communities that are, what do you say, that allow this kind of thing, you can go to this pop-up event, and this lets people know that you're doing this. Another one that you can do is, what are these? Corporate office sampling. So I've done this twice, and it has worked. So you can go to corporate like offices, and half the time, I don't know if not all of them do this, but some of them do this, okay? These offices will have like a break time, like a tea time, something like 10 to 11 or 10:30 to 11:30. And they will allow some people to come in with products so that people can either purchase or test them, right? They also have like meal delivery people. Now, depending on the office, because it depends on where you at, some offices will allow people to come and stand in their kitchen. Some offices will allow you to go to the cubicles of people and sell people to people. You will go and talk to the admin and figure out what type of scenario do I have in this kind of thing, right? And so go to the offices and see if you can get people, especially if you're selling something like cupcakes. I did it because my first business, I was selling banana breads. And so I would cut the bread into like 8 slices and package the slices by themselves. The first month I was there, I had a specific number of banana bread slices that were for samples. And so I would give people those samples, and then they would buy the slice. I then graduated to selling the whole banana loaf. And I would tell people, hey, do you want to buy the banana loaf? And they would buy it that time. Or I'll do like half a loaf. If you're getting started, this is a nice way to like jumpstart your business and getting people to know about you. And a lot of those office people ended up actually purchasing celebration cakes from me. And so it's a great way of, one, testing your idea. Number two, getting your name out there. Now, the reason why I loved it for testing idea is some people would tell me, listen, I like your banana bread, but it has too much sugar. Or listen, I love your brown banana bread, but it's too grainy. That I got a lot of feedback from a lot of those people who are sampling stuff. So that's another great way. So pop-up events, estate or residential places, family days. You can go to schools or you can go to church events, or you can go to corporate offices. So if you're testing your products, what's another thing you can do? This one worked for me. I think I did this twice. You can do competitions or giveaways for your products. Again, I did this the first 6 months of my business. So in 2019, I launched a product business called Chiffon Cakes by Amari. A lot of people did not know what chiffon cakes were. And so, like, the point was to do a giveaway or do competitions where people would win the cake and then taste it and then hopefully give feedback that I can post, and then people get to know about chiffon cakes, right? This was where I was going with this. So do giveaways or competitions with an aspect of feedback. So you're going to tell people, listen, when you win this cake, I need you to do this. Like take a photo and give a review of what you thought of the cake. Also, let me know, what did you think of this cake? And so I found out that I did, I think, 3 giveaways. And out of those 3 giveaways, I was able to get very good feedback. I also did this in 2012 when I first started my banana bread business, because I would do the giveaways and I would ask people on the side, like in DM, hey, what do you think of the banana bread? And people would give feedback. So competitions are a great way of testing if your product is good or if somebody would buy your product. Another thing is, if you have an existing business, let's say you're a home baker and you've been baking for a year or two, and you're wondering, I want to change my menu, but I don't know if people are going to like my menu. You can start doing sort of either tasting boxes, because I've seen bakers do this so well, or you can give again, you can do the giveaways but do for the new flavors. So you'll see people doing sort of cake slices, kind of like the way people who are doing wedding cake tasting people do, except for they're not doing for weddings. They're doing like tasting boxes for regular people, and they'll be like, listen, we are doing a tasting box, it's only for weekends, it is this amount of money, and you get 3 to 4 flavors, and people order that. The thing is, what you're going to do is, when people order that, because it's most of the time it tends to be a low priced product, when you do it, please reach out to every customer who purchased from you and get feedback and tell them, listen, I want honest feedback. Would you purchase? Would you buy this? That is a great way of actually doing. Now, for me, the interesting thing, I did this, but I didn't do this as a selling thing. What I would do at one particular month, I wanted to introduce a flavor. And so what I did is, if you would order anything like a banana bread or cupcakes, I would do a slice of the cake that I wanted to test. And then I tell you, hey, I have a freebie for you. Can you give me feedback on the freebie? And because it's a freebie, most of the time people love giving feedback. And so that's one way of testing if people would buy your product or they like your product, right? So that's another way of testing your idea to make sure it's profitable, to make sure it's something people actually like. And sometimes I've actually not done a product because I could notice what people are saying. Like, people would be like, well, it's an acquired taste. It's not bad, but I don't particularly like it. If you start giving me feedback like that, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to sell this product. So that's another way of doing that. Another thing you can try and do is collaborate with a complementary vendor. Now, I've never done this, but I know multiple bakers who've done this. I know a baker who collaborated with a makeup artist, and I also know a baker who collaborated with an event planner. So when that event planner is doing some sort of event, you can either bring smaller samples that people can taste and then give out your card or your brochure and tell people, hey, you can order from me. And especially when it's a wedding event planner and you're the type of person who does wedding cakes, and most people, it is very difficult for them to like taste your cake and then order it for a wedding cake. And maybe they don't want to actually pay for the samples, right? And so what I would tell you is, if they do events or they have something happening, you can collaborate with that, or a photographer. You can collaborate with that person if they're having an event or something, and just give away samples to attract the type of customer you're looking at. It's not always 100% gonna work, but hey, if you're the type of person who likes to collaborate with people across industries, that can work for you. Another way you can test if your product is profitable, people want it, is do a paid event. Like, if you're the type of person who you don't know where to go, you don't want to go to offices, you don't go to church, you don't do school days or estate days, you can create your own event, and you can either do it free or you can make it paid. Now, you can do your own event and say, hey, this is a tasting event and you have to pay this fee, like an entrance fee of like 1,000 shillings or 500 shillings. And you can tell them, when you pay this, this is what you get. You'll come in and you're going to taste 5 flavors of cake or whatever. So you can actually do, I think I know one person who did this, but the reason she was able to do this is she's in a specific type of like community where she lives, and so they have a space where she was actually able to do the event. And I think she did it like afternoon. It was like a 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. event, and she'd just tell people, hey, just pass by, pay like I did think it was like 200 shillings, and you can taste all my cake flavors. And that kind of worked out for her because a lot of people in that estate ended up actually ordering cake from her, and I thought that was genius. So if you're in a type of place where you're able to do that, you can do that. What happened is that people gave her feedback on her products, and second thing is that, people started buying from her. So it was a marketing event. Okay, so the other thing I'd tell you now, this I've never done, and I'm not sure how effective it is, but I do know somebody who tells me she's done it and it's effective. You can collaborate with an eatery. Like there's some hotels who want to sell cake, but they don't want to bake the cakes. They want to buy from a bakery these types of cakes. And so I know a baker who actually sells block cakes to a specific hotel. Now, this is not a fancy hotel, but it's like a mid-level hotel. They sell like regular meals. And then they have this little section where they have display and they do cake slices. And she actually provides them with the cake slices, right? And so they'll buy like an 8-inch cake and cut it into like 12 slices. So if this is something you want to get into, the first way you can start is like, listen, approach them, be like, listen, I'm willing to give you a free 8-inch, test it with your customers, and if they're taking, if they want them, and even test with price. And if they like it, you can purchase from me. And also you can tell them to give you feedback. So that would do two things. It would market you, and also it would give you feedback on, will people actually buy this cake? Because if that cake goes 2 days and nobody has purchased the cake, that tells you people are not interested. Or if people eat the cake and they don't like it, they're going to give you the feedback, right? So those are ideas you can just kind of use to test out. Those actually, every time you're doing market research, it does two things. It helps you know, would people buy these products. The second thing is that it would help you understand if is that a buyable thing. George, how do I enter the Kenyan luxury cake market? That is a very good question, and I'm going to answer to the best of my ability. One of the things that happens with the luxury cake market is that it needs you to do multiple things, right? First and foremost, you have to brand yourself as a person who is going to attract luxury cake market. So it's gonna depend on niche. It could be weddings, it could be birthdays, it could be that kind of thing. So the first one way you may have to do this is networking. You need to network with people who are in touch with your type of clientele. So, for example, if you're looking for people who, like maybe celebrities or something like that, you can either do influencer partnerships or partner with companies who are in touch with that type of clientele. So that means that eyeballs, those people get to see your business. So that's one way of doing it, networking with the right people. You got to find those people. I'm not going to tell you that I know how to find those people, but you got to find those people to help you network. The second way you need to do this is you need to brand as a luxury cake market. One of the things I've discovered is people want to be in the luxury cake market, but when you look at how they're presenting themselves, they're not luxury. Luxury means when I look at your, like, let me give an example. If I go to your TikTok page or your Instagram page, I should see luxury. Your content should be high quality content, both video and photos. Your skill should be very high quality. Like, are you doing, like, let's say you've decided to get into the luxury market that does celebration cakes. When I look at your fondant celebration cakes, are they speaking to me in a luxury sort of language? Are your wedding cakes dripping luxury, right? You have to look, sound, and present the part. So it starts by internal branding. It starts by having the skill to project and present a luxury look or brand. Once you're projecting that, now you start connecting with people in the same way. Whether it is doing videos that show behind the scenes in luxury wedding sort of settings or luxury kind of thing, whether it is projecting you guys coming up with this amazing project that cost you blah blah blah, like this many thousand shillings or dollars or whatever, you have to basically start by branding yourself as a luxury brand, and then you project as a luxury brand, and then you network with brands or people who are going to project you as a luxury kind of brand. So I'd say branding, make sure your skill is top tier, make sure your content is projecting that. And then, of course, cost and price as a luxury, like premium pricing. And then collaborate with people who will help you tap into that market as well. So, George, I hope that kind of gives you clarity. If you need a follow up question, please do ask. So I just, as I'm waiting to see, and if anybody has a question about, specific markets or testing your products, let me know. So I want to tell you guys how I did it. I like giving my own example just so that it doesn't look like I'm just giving random advice. I want to share with you 3 ways that I tested my product to make sure that it was profitable before actually selling it. So the first product I ever sold was banana breads. And I was selling them exclusively. Like my first business was actually called Amari Quick Breads. Like I was just selling banana bread, lemon bread, and I think orange bread. So if you're, I when before I did that, I think I had so many people taste my banana bread. I started with my own family, my cousins, and then my friends, colleagues that I was working with. And what happened is that when I first started, it was a very sweet, sweet, sweet product, and I didn't want it to be overly sweet. And so what happened with each time I tested, I would tweak the sugar amount. And so I tested and tested until I got the sweet spot where it was sweet, but it wasn't too sugary, right? So I'd say that's one way of doing it. So I started by colleagues, people near me, and then I started selling to friends, sort of like people who are purchasing the thing, and then I'd get feedback from them. And I think I was able to tweak that until I got it right. So start with people close to you. Just to answer a question, first I've seen somebody say, do you have any recommendation for getting good spring from pan? Most of them in the market don't. I'm waiting for the rest of that comment. Don't what? I'll wait. Okay, thank you. That answers it. Also, in your opinion, what's the best strategy for social media marketing? You could be having many views and orders. That is so true, George. As I wait for the person asking about springform pan, but the interesting thing is that I actually do have springform pans from TopServe, and they tend to be good quality. The rest of the comment. Okay, I think I just didn't see it. Yeah, I'm gonna wait to see again. Yeah, so what I tell you, Arimis, I think is what you're called. Springform pants, 2 ways I tell you to buy them. I'll get your question, George. First and foremost, get from TopServe Limited. That tends to be good. The thing I do tell people is that I actually think I have a springform pan here, guys. I will see if I can get it. Springform pans have a coating. That coating is non-stick coating. The problem is that most people use like a very hard surface, like the scrubbing thing, like the Scotch Brite. People use that on that and it tends to come out. And you're not supposed to. You're supposed to use a soft cloth. So if you have a springform pan and it has that coating, always use a soft scrubbing thing or sponge to wash it. If you wash it properly and store it in a clean, dry place, you should be fine. Oh, the springform doesn't unlock once out of the oven. Really? Okay, I have not had that issue with mine. And so I tell you, I think it is brand. Personally, I've bought it from TopServe Limited and I haven't had that issue. I think a lot years back, let me say like almost a decade, I did have a pan that had that issue, but that particular pan rusted. And so because it would rust, it wouldn't open. That's why. So I actually stopped using it. So now when I'm using the TopServe one, I don't have that issue because I clean them nicely, I air dry them, and then you can wipe it and they tend to have no issues. So for me, I'm sorry that that's happening to you, but I think it might be like a brand thing. Where did you get it from? I'll wait and see. Going to George. George has asked me, what's the best strategy for social media marketing? That is I will answer to the best of my ability, but I will tell you that that's a very broad topic. And so I can do the next live I'll do on social media marketing, but I want to say this. A lot of people, when they're posting on social media, are posting for views and virality. They're not posting for orders. And so what I'd say is that most people don't even have a strategy. They just come here and because they love to see 10,000 likes, 1 million views, they think that's the answer. And so what I'm telling you is views don't equals orders. Let me tell you, there's a lot of bakers who won't tell you this. They have 100K followers and they're making losses. They have 50,000 likes on comments, but people are actually not ordering. They are commenting and liking, but they're not ordering. So what I tell you is start with a strategy first. Before you go on social media, sit down and ask yourself, who is your target market? Who am I talking to? If it's who am I talking to, what are their what would make them buy from me, right? And so your content should answer those questions. Your content shouldn't be to get the thing, to get the video to get 20 million views. The thing should be, how does it talk to my client? Like when I post this video, is it dealing with my client and their challenges? For example, if you want to talk to a bride, like let's say you're a wedding person and you are wondering, how do I attract a bride? Most brides are worried about, can you actually execute on my order without me stressing when I'm going through my wedding? And so if you do a behind the scenes showcasing how you went somewhere, how you set up as you have gloves, and I can see that you're a very hygienic person, how we set up, it was lovely. When it finished, how the whole thing went by, how we cleaned up and went home. Already, I have a lot of confidence in you. And so what I'd say is your best strategy is to sit down and come up with a content plan, and your content plan should be how you answer challenges, how you showcase your brand to your client. So your job is not views. Your job is, if I am a client and I'm looking at your account, am I seeing things that are going to get me to buy? Right? And you can find that way in many ways. These days, you can even go to ChatGPT and be like, how can I create content that deals with challenges from my client? And ChatGPT will give you an idea. But the problem is that a lot of people are chasing views, but they're not chasing clients. And those are two different things. I will often have pieces of content of mine that get 300 views, 400 views. But the interesting thing about those particular pieces of content, people will DM me, be like, hey, I just saw this video and I want to buy this thing. Why? Because I was dealing with a challenge that that person had specifically, right? So I hope that helps you out. George, feel free again to follow up. Crazy nail. You live in America, but depending on what we're cooking in the spring pan, we will butter the pan first and then put parchment paper on top. That way, when you take the spring edge off, you can just easily take it whatever you made off the pan. True, exactly. So that's another way. Thank you for the tip. And yes, so you can put parchment paper at the bottom and so it snaps, even though like I think half the time the problem was the snapping. But you're right, if your lock or the spring from lock is not coming off, if you do have parchment paper, it definitely helps. Or goop, sometimes I'll use like this spray or goop, and so if you apply that, it definitely comes out. So crazy nail, thanks so much for that tip. Definitely a good idea when it comes to taking pans out. Okay, as I'm waiting for a follow-up, I don't know if you're going to follow up with the spring foam. You can let me know where you purchased it from. George, let me know if that answer helped you. So I was back to, I was actually sharing how I tested out my ideas to make sure they're profitable, as I'm going off on tangents on this. So another way I was able to test on my product. So the second time I was launching my second product, which is chiffon cakes in 2019, I decided to sort of test if people were interested in chiffon cakes, because like I was so afraid because I wasn't sure, like Kenyans were going to be like, oh my god, I don't know what this is. And so I remember I went to two events that sold me, and once I went to these two events, I actually now full on went crazy on this, right? And this is what I did. Let me explain and then I'll come back to you, George. So I did a cake festival, which is where people, is it cake festival? It stopped, but I think the last time they had one is 2019, where people would come and get free cake. Basically, they pay an entrance fee and they get free cake, and you're supposed to get people from there. I didn't want to get customers. I wanted to get feedback. So I remember we had a long table and I would say hi and I'd explain what it is. And then I'd have people taste the chiffon cake. And at the end of my table, I would have one of my assistants ask for feedback, like seriously. I remember that festival, we were the first table to run out of cakes because people would go around and come back to our table to eat cake. Secondly, people would come back to actually give us feedback. And I remember that day we finished early. I didn't even want to stay because the feedback I got was so amazing. I knew I definitely had to sell that cake. The second event that I did was later on, like I think 2022, 2021, like, like way after I'd started, but it was still kind of testing it. I think it was 2019 there, 2021, because it was post-COVID. And what I did was I went to Pop Up and Chill Nairobi. So if you're in Nairobi, you know what I'm talking. You might search it out. Pop Up in Chile is one of the bigger pop-up events, and they have a food section. And I remember it has a lot of expatriates, right? People who know what chiffon cake is. And again, I was so nervous actually selling the chiffon cakes, but I remember I had samples, but I was also selling. So every person who tested, I can say 99% of the people who tested cake ended up buying, and some went, came back, and purchased before they went home. So it's one of the good ways of having those type of events, is one of the ways you can actually get people to give you feedback on your thing. So George, you have a follow-up question. How do you handle delivery fees? I've tried bodegas and they're letting down, so I've had to resort to Uber, which is quite expensive. George, I actually remember doing a video on this, and I'm going to tell you what I said in this video. When you are a home baker, the good thing about you is that you don't pay for rent. But what people don't realize is that your next biggest, what do you call it? Your next biggest expense is delivery. That is like the next thing to rent. Because what happens, because you're home, you have to get the cake to the person. And so you're either going to have to choose two things. One, you can incorporate some delivery fee into your costing. When I first started, I did this a lot because I knew it would be very hard to convince people to pay the full amount of delivery. And again, I'm trying to get into the market, so I don't want to give you friction. And so what I did is I would put a certain amount inside, like for example, I think I did 400. So I already had 400, no matter what product it is, it had 400 shillings in there. Does that change your price? Yes, it does. But it's a decision I made because I needed to cushion delivery somehow. So I always had that 400 shilling in delivery. Now, what would happen is I will always tell people I give either discounted delivery or something like that. When I'm talking with you, I'll be like, we do give you a discount delivery. Where are you at? If the person who you're sending to tells you where I'm at, my like the person tells you, okay, to deliver to Buruburu is 1400. I will tell you 1000 because that removes the 400. That's one way you can cushion by like absorbing a little bit of the delivery cost in your business. But please, you have to be very careful when you're doing costing and pricing, and make sure you're selling a lot of cakes to absorb that cost. That's number one. Number two, you can just tell people straight up, for this type of products, we do not like delivery has to be paid. Another thing I actually did, I remember, was I'd tell people you can come collect in this specific place. Find a place, whether it is your home outside. I know a baker who tell people just come and collect because she was in an estate, or she would find like a local supermarket that was nearby. And she'd be like, if you come and collect here, it's free. And so she would walk to the supermarket and people would collect from her. Or we do free collection at this area. If not, you have to pay full delivery. And that's just kind of one of those things that is going to be something you tell people up front. People will always complain about delivery, especially for home bakers. I think the thing that I believe in is building your brand to the point where people don't care that they have to pay delivery. It's going to be normal. Because if you think about it, Jumia has delivery, right? If like you're in the US, Amazon has, like, people do delivery. Delivery is one of those things, or shipping is one of those things that's paid. So half the time people are complaining, maybe because they're looking at your business, they're thinking, oh, why do I have to pay you delivery? Delivery is part of the process. And so what happens is maybe build up your brand to the point where you're like, listen, delivery is part of this thing. This is how it's done. And then you can look for a second option. Now, since I don't know if you're in Nairobi specifically, if you're in Nairobi, there is a place called Shikilia stores. You can tell people, listen, I do subsidized pickup points where you just pay 100 or 200 shillings. Shikilia stores has cool storage, like they can put your cake in a fridge, or regular storage. So you can look for multiple places like that, so that when you're talking to your client, you can tell them, I have three options for you. You can collect for free in this place. You can do storage, but they still have to go collect at Chicklia stores at a subsidized price. Or number three, you can deliver. If you find you're losing people a lot for delivery, you might have to rethink your business model two ways. Either you find a shop, or you build your brand so that people do not complain about delivery because your brand is so good and they're so excited about buying from you, that it's not an issue that they have to deliver. I hope that has made sense to you, George, right? So that's how I deal with it. Because unfortunately, it is like the reality of life. Delivery is always going to be expensive. Okay. Yeah, good question, by the way, George. Thanks. So, back to my how do you test if your product is profitable, sustainable? So, I've talked about how I did it, which is giving samples to people near me. I talked about going to two pop-up events that really sold me on that my product is good enough to sell and people were willing to like buy this thing. You're welcome, George. And then the third thing that I did was I had two friends who were in a very corporate setting, like they were working for big companies, and the companies had the break time I was telling you, the 10:30 to 11. But what I did is I didn't go to the break time. I asked them, listen, I want to send you a cake and I want you to share with your colleagues. Everything is free. I paid for the delivery. I gave the cake for free. But I want you to collect feedback. So because it's my friend, I talked to them. I'm like, I'm giving you free cake. I need you to get 3 to 5 people to give you feedback. And each person ended up giving me so much. They were so in depth with the feedback. And this is because they've gotten a free thing. So they were willing to help me. And so I sent them with the packaging. And I remember my first friend was so amazing. She took photos and videos. Those were the first user generated content I actually used for my chiffon cake brand. And she made everybody like tell her. Some people even wrote her texts and she would send me the screen shares. And she made them tell her what they liked, what did they think of the packaging, because like she called them and she cut the cake as she opened the packaging. And I remember at that time it was the first time I used a black box, like a black cake box, and she was telling me how her colleagues were very impressed by the fact that it was a black box. Then at that time, if you ordered like a plain cake, I would deliver with bamboo like cutlery, like the knife and the spoon. And so no, it was a knife and a fork. And so one person ended up telling, I was so impressed that she did the cutlery, that was bamboo cutlery. So I was able to get all manner of feedback on the packaging, the taste of the cake. If somebody didn't like the cake, why they didn't like, I ended up sending her 2 cakes. And so I had a lot, I think it was about 10 people who gave her feedback. Only one wasn't good. And the reason had been that it had been an orange chiffon cake and that person didn't like the citrus one. So she was like, I didn't like the orange one. I like the vanilla chocolate chip. And so that was the feedback. And so one way is to target a person you know who is like your exact target market, but don't have them buy. Have them, taste and give you feedback. I have also done this with micro influencers. I would reach out. I also did like, I think I did like 3 months of research before I reached out to them. I would go to their accounts and I would check what do they post. Do they have people who are engaged? Instagram micro influencers. Then I'd DM them, be like, hi, I'm looking for feedback on my product. If you want, you can post. If I have to pay to post, let me know. And so because these people are like foodie influencers, they're very honest and then they tend to be very clear on their feedback. Like their feedback wouldn't be like it was a nice cake. They'll tell you like details. I remember I sent to about 5 micro influencers. I think only 2 of them they had like something they didn't like. And it wasn't like a bad thing. Like one person went like, oh, I wish it had frosting because it was just a plain cake. I think the second person said that the vanilla wasn't enough. Like they felt like the vanilla didn't pop. But everything else was positive, and some of them actually posted, which got me followers and clients. And so the point is, or the point of what I'm trying to tell you is, don't be in love with your product without ensuring that other people are in love with your product. Because we're the ones who are creating the product, we tend to fall in love with it first. But you can fall in love with a product that is hard to sell. You can fall in love with a product that is a difficult thing to sell to people. Here's an example. I had a friend of mine who was selling lactation cookies, and she did very well with the lactation cookies. And I remember her trying out gluten-free lactation cookies. Those didn't do well at all. First and foremost, not a lot of people were, as much as yes, there was like 1 or 2 people who ordered the gluten-free. Most people want the gluten, or a lot of these people want to do the gluten. And so what happened is I actually remember, and she was actually going through my class or my mentorship when when she did this. And I remember we actually discussed it. We were like, wow, this is so interesting that people love the lactation cookies, but the people who keep complaining about gluten, there's like only 2 people who bought from her. And so she put it in the menu and then took it off, like I think after a month. So that testing kind of lets you know. right? That lets you know, like, okay, I might be in love with this product. And I remember she still kept making the cookies for her family because her family loved them, but nobody else loved them. Nobody wanted to buy these gluten-free lactation cookies, right? Because it was so specific. And so what I want to tell you is that it's good to fall in love with your product, but it's also good to make sure that if you give people your product out there, not only do they love it, they will pay money for it. And if it is a product people love and can pay money for it, then you can also make money from it, right? So no matter what it is you're doing, especially if you're starting or you want to pivot or you're finding that your products aren't selling and you don't know what to do, start doing market research. Start trying to figure out, like, maybe I'm just not selling flavors that people want. There's flavors that go into style and then they go out of style. And so you want to consistently do market research with people. I've done it with classes. There's classes because my main business is teaching people how to bake. I do physical classes, but I specifically currently this year I'm doing a lot of online classes. And so I may have started doing a specific type of online class 5 years ago that I'm not doing anymore. I found out that people want a specific type of learning or lessons now. And so I had to switch up and do the same thing. And so I'm also consistently always talking to people, asking them, what is it you want to learn? How come you don't want to sign up for this class? Or what is it about this class you like? How would you want me to improve it? And so you also want to do the same for your business. If you're starting, obviously you want to do it to test your product. But if you are not starting and you've been doing business for a while, you also want to confirm to people that you want to confirm that your products are still selling, especially now in our economy right now. If your business is selling things that people are lukewarm about, most businesses like those are not doing well because, well, I don't have to buy your product and so I won't. And so if you find you're having less sales, one of the things you need to do is to do market research and see, are my products still viable? Do people still want what I'm selling? Do I need to change my menu fully? Do I need to change my menu a little bit? Do I need to add some little bit of thing in my menu maybe? Like, kind of like, always do market research, whether you're getting started, whether you're in between your business, whatever it is you need to do. Just kind of do that so that you are making money. Because again, the point of this is to have a profitable business, right? Which, by the way, on this point, I haven't even mentioned this once. For anybody who would be interested in any type of learning, I have a online bakers community called the Profitable Bakers Lab. This is actually something I launched this year, and it's an online course community. So it's a subscription. You pay $9 a month, right? Or you can pay like a yearly annual fee that's very subsidized. And what I'm going to be doing is each month I'm going to be posting course modules. Like for February, the people who are in there are learning about cake costing and pricing, and they're also learning about buttercream. Now I'm going to have multiple course modules. So each month I will post the course module, and it's going to be available infinity. So if you join the course, you're going to find all the course modules I already have, and I'm going to keep adding each month because I'm going to be focusing on a specific thing. So currently, if you're struggling with costing and pricing, if you want to run a profitable baking business that has costed and priced correctly, please join the Profitable Bakers community. If you're on YouTube, feel free to just I think I'll leave the description on this, but you can just check on my WhatsApp. If you're on TikTok especially, I've also put it, I think, on YouTube. Just comment or DM me and I will definitely give you details of that, right? I also have a Baking with Amari recipe ebooks with 56 recipes, cakes, cookies, breads. If you're interested in that, if you're on YouTube, there's a link actually to my Shopify store. If you're on TikTok, again, just check my profile. You'll see my details and you can DM me. So yeah, if you're interested in running a profitable, because I meet a lot of bakers. I realize a lot of bakers do not have a profitable business. I've been doing business for a long time. There's periods of time where my business has not been profitable. And what happens is that I'm able to identify what's happening, tweak it, right? And so I'm sharing just some of the things that you'd never think about, but you need to think about because they make your business so much more profitable and so much more sustainable. Because just because you're selling things cheap doesn't mean it's going to be sustainable. You might last for 8 months, but after that you're going to close, right? And so what you want to do is make sure you're running a sustainable, profitable business that's going to stand the test of time. Again, I think I've been doing business for about 13 years. People I started who were in the industry, I can, like, half of them have quit because they couldn't run a sustainable business, They didn't cost and price profitably. They didn't market nicely. They didn't have strategies, like George is asking about all these strategies with marketing and all that. You have to figure out various aspects of your business. I'm still figuring various aspects of my business. Once you figure them out and keep tweaking, once you keep talking to your customers, market research is also about always talking to your customers. Like, keep connecting with them. Am I still giving you value? What are you asking about? Like, where do you need help so that I can offer there? If you're a bakery, what do you want? If it's within my niche, I can offer this because this is what my clients are asking for, right? And so this is something to just kind of consider as you continue on. Starting mid, been doing it for 10 years to this day, I'm still doing market research, and so should you. Thank you so much for the questions. I think that's it for today. I will wait a few minutes if anybody else has questions. Thank you so much, George and Crazy Nail, for the interaction on YouTube. I appreciate it, and I hope this has helped you. Thank you, TikTok, for you guys in the love bubbles. And if you have any questions, definitely let me know. I'll wait a little bit for the questions before I get going. And whoever had asked for the question about spring foam, I hope our answers have helped you out. And yeah, purchase from, I would also say purchase, people don't think about it when they start, but when you're purchasing baking pans or baking tins, it's important to actually purchase good quality, but also from like a brand that sells good quality. The reason I like purchasing from a brand that's doing good quality is I'm able to go back to them and tell them, hey, this is not good. Like, why did you sell me something like this? And they can, offer tips or whatever. If you're buying a good quality product, if cheap, sometimes it's expensive. You might get something that's cheap, and then within 2 months, it's rusting and it's falling apart because it was cheap. So sometimes investing in a higher quality item, even if it is a bit more expensive, if it's worth it because it's able to last long. If you're the type of person who's decided to do business for a while, I knew I was going to do business for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And so I wanted to make sure my equipment is going to last that long. And so you want to do the same when you're buying your baking pans or your baking tins, because if not, let me tell you, every 3 months or every year, you're going to be buying stuff and it becomes expensive over time. That's why we say cheap is expensive, right? Anyway, I think that's it for me today. Thanks so much, guys. I will see you again next week. I'm going to be going live Mondays and Wednesdays on this topics. And of course, as you comment, I'm able to see the topics that I can cover the next time to help you out. So I'll definitely be covering social media marketing or some type of marketing topic next week for sure. Thank you so much, YouTube. I will see you guys. Let me get off YouTube first.